Hey there, I hope you're doing well on day 20 of 31 days of essential oils. I am actually blown away that we're this far into it. I'm not this far into it when it comes to the blogs, and I do apologize for that. I'm doing the best I can to keep up. My intention was to do something every single day, but the truth is that my desire to provide as the most beneficial information um, and really in order to help you better use the oils or better improve, I don't know about improve, but you know what I'm saying, really affect the way you select an oil. um, it's really important to me. So I'm not, like I said, I am not even close to being up to date. I had posted something regarding eucalyptus just yesterday. I got into it, and I'm already editing it because it's not complete. And yeah, I think it would be advisable. I'm going to have it back up later today. So if you will please take a look at that. I think that's very important, especially if you are a parent. And the way eucalyptus is currently being marketed, it's not unlike lavender or peppermint. So I would suggest that you would just kind of hop over to synergessence.com, the 31 Days of Essential Oils tab, and check that out, because like I said, there's a lot of information, and the more I get into this, the more information I'm sharing, because again, it really comes down to the ability to best choose or choose an oil that's best for us, our unique needs, and also being mindful of the fact that these oils are being nitpicked. They are being studied down to each constituent, and where you can go on, sometimes on a website, they'll provide you with, maybe 4 or 5 constituents. Be warned that many of these oils can have up to almost 100 different constituents in them. So when you see 4 or 5, just know that that's just a snapshot. They're giving you the most common, but doesn't necessarily mean that that is all that's in the oil. So I just want to say that, and eucalyptus happens to be one of them. And I'm not going to share what I'm putting into that here. I want you to take a look at it over there, because it's actually rather in depth. And just know, not a naysayer, but I am raising a red flag. And so again, if you're a parent and you've been using eucalyptus products with your child, you might want to take a look at this and maybe rethink other options, because I'll just say right here, it's not to our children's advantage to be using too much eucalyptus. On that note, but today, if this is your first time watching, yeah, that's me. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and hope you get something out of this. Please like, share, subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions about any other oil that you might like to know about. We have another week to go almost. Tomorrow is day 21, and we have another 10 days actually after that. So yeah, this is pretty cool. And if you've been here with me this whole time, thank you. I appreciate the comments. Keep them coming, and it really kind of helped me. Um, I want to say that there was a question regarding blending. That's going to be a lot. I'm going to take a little bit of time to think about that. That would be an awful lot to do in a single video. And maybe we could do a live class if that's something and other people would be interested in. Just putting that out there. But I would be happy to teach you how to do that, because, well, the bottom line is, the way I believe in blending, it does come down to understanding the chemical effects in the body and how to pair the oils in such a way that they kind of counterbalance one another, and they offer stability as opposed to trying to regulate a very specific chemical in the body. And if this is your first time here, go back and take a look at some of these other oils, because there are some that actually directly influence very specific chemicals in the body. And while we may want to use them for certain reasons, learning how to balance those is important. So it's not so much about, your ratio of drops. Like, say for instance, we were going to use 2 of this one and 3 of another and 5 of that one. I don't necessarily adhere, kind of align with that school of thought. It has more to do with selectively choosing the oils so that they work. There's a synergy, if you will, really creating that synergy of what it is you're ultimately trying to accomplish in with your body. Yes, we do want to focus on or pay attention to, at the very least, symptom relief, but we also want to be aware of long-term effects. That's the most important component here. That's the reason why I was mentioning eucalyptus, because there are long-term effects, and there are a lot of concerns these days. I mean, in some countries, there have been children who are not necessarily poisoned, but they're experiencing toxic effects because they're getting too much oil, too much of the essential oil. And so, on that note, it is important to go with less. You want to use less, especially for the little bodies, okay? Because they are very responsive to the oils. That's a good thing. But again, with genetic adaptations that are occurring as a result of our environment, it's important to know that these oils are made up of various compounds. I actually did a video just recently on phenols, and I'm thinking about doing another one on phenols. In fact, I might actually do one on phenols now that I say that. But that's an important component of, these are very significant compounds produced in plants, and at the same time, if the body is not able to process them, then we see toxic overload. And so that's what I'm getting at with a lot of these oils, is they do contain phenolic compounds. So on that, and I don't get into that here in the videos. I prefer to address that more specifically in writing because, well, number one, it takes me some time to spell it all out, literally, because some of the compounds are interesting words, but it also helps me to kind of explain it and help it make sense for you. So that's what I'm doing over there. Over here, I'm just kind of talking about the basic usage, the things that I've done with them, because this comes to you with 30 years of experience. I am an independent researcher. I do not rep any company. I've been working with these oils on my own, like I said, for just about over 30 years now. Started out kind of like the typical, this is, what the books were saying, and it grew because I also specialize in understanding plant constituents as they affect human health and and they're being studied for drug development. So that's what's being built into this. And so when I share here with you what I've used these oils for, it comes from prior experience, and how I've adapted the use of them and what I kind of solely focus on. And like I said, when it comes to more of the chemical aspects to the oils, that's being discussed over on the blog. So check that out. That link is in the box below. But just keep in mind, I'm dragging. I'm dragging because, well, life is happening and keeping up with these. This is a big project that I've given myself. So keeping up with these and really providing you with comprehensive information is my goal. So just kind of hang with me here. And if you sign up over on my website, you'll get notification when I post other subsequent blogs. Okay. Anyway, so today I want to talk about celery seed oil. Celery seed is actually a really, really sweet oil, not sweet in a like flowery or sugary sweet, but it's just a very sweet, gentle oil that I have used extensively with for liver, more specifically helping the body to regulate itself with it helps the body to detox from heavy metal exposure. It supports chelation if you're exposed to or you're dealing with heavy metals, and you can support that with celery seed because it does help with the elimination of the chelation process. It used to be, I believe, that it chelated oils, but chelated metals, but it really it's not doing that. It's supporting the body's ability to flush itself and reduce oxidative stress is how I want to put that. Reduce the production of oxidative stress. And the reason that's important when it comes to heavy metals is because when we are exposed to heavy metals, which unfortunately we are on a regular basis, the body is not equipped to flush heavy metals. We store them. So what that means is that we are, when we're exposed, the body kicks into producing oxidative stress chemicals, reactive oxygen species. This is what inflammation is. It's actually a protection mechanism. And so the body starts to oxidize chemicals to produce other chemicals that are now being used to help store metals. For instance, hydrogen peroxide, that's one of the reasons why the body produces hydrogen peroxide, is because it is used in the storage of heavy metals into the bone and other tissues. Dopamine is oxidized and converted into a different chemical through the support of glutamate in order to store heavy metals in the brain. So again, if we want to think we can flush these metals, and I know there's a lot of chelation products out there, and so I'm not saying that it's impossible, but the body's not equipped to do it, is how I want to say that. What I will say, though, is that if you do take a chelation product, you want to support it with celery seed oil, because it does, again, support the liver. It helps with the detox process. It is very soothing. See, that's what I'm saying. It's very calming to the nervous system, which means it's helping to relieve the stress reaction, which is reducing the production of oxidative stress. So with that said, it's also very it can be used for if there's overwhelm. If somebody's feeling kind of overwhelmed by things or kind of antsy, that would be another use for celery seed. And occasionally I've used it for pain, but not a lot. I've kind of thrown it in there, but that was only when I saw that pain was kind of tied into a mood. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, because I know that when there's, especially in the presence of depression, our pain tolerance tends to drop. So to add celery seed into that kind of compound blend, if you will, that formula would kind of help be more of an uplifting, kind of easing the mental anguish possibly. And if metals are a concern, now that I'm thinking about this as I'm talking with you, you could actually add myrrh to this, which would again help relieve the mental. My goodness, mental metal. It's it's tongue twister day. But the mental anguish that comes along. It's not that depression. The way I see mood disorders in the case of depression is that it's not that there's something wrong with the individual. The body is taxed, and depending on the individual genome, it's going to fluctuate. Sometimes you may have some anxiety, other times you may feel more depressed. Now, if you're already taking an SSRI, celery seed is fine with that. And so is actually myrrh. But like I said, when we get into the more kind of more in the depressed states, we have a tendency to see our, like I said, our pain tolerance tends to drop. And so what happens is we feel more. Okay, we're just feeling more. And this can happen a lot with heavy metals because, again, the way I want to describe this is when the body is threatened, when our survival is threatened, what ends up happening is, and I mean, this is in part why we talk about meditation and breathing deeply and doing things that we can take the moment to remind our bodies that we're safe, because the body cannot distinguish between a chemical threat and the threat of a dog or, an intruder, a home intruder. So it cannot distinguish. So that technically the body is under chronic survival mode because we're being inundated with a ton of chemicals. And so when you happen to live in a highly populated area, condensed, right? A lot of traffic and smog and so forth. There's a lot more heavy metals going on, and I can speak firmly about the East Coast. I'm from the East Coast originally. So there is a lot of heavy metal exposure. Of course, there's also a lot of heavy metals, just with the between the cars, with the coal and the paper making and so forth, and steel industry. So you've got all of that going on. And again, it's not that depression, and we have this tendency to go, okay, well, it's also grayer, so like I get that all has an impact, light and so forth has an impact on our moods, but keep in mind that the body has to make changes. Okay, it's not defective. I really want to emphasize that it's not defective. So the body has to undergo changes in order to keep us safe, in order to keep this organism alive and going. And so what it does is it begins to oxidize chemicals in order to help store heavy metals in this case, or you know, protect it and try to eliminate other toxins. When that happens, that all that means is the chemistry has been changed. Okay, it doesn't mean that your body again is dysfunctional. It means that the chemistry was changed to save you. Remember what I said earlier. Dopamine is oxidized in order to store heavy metals in the brain. Okay, which means, and like I said, through the assistance of glutamate. So there's a relationship there between those two neurotransmitters. And glutamate, if you're not aware, is used to produce glutathione. It's also used it's converted into GABA. But when these changes occur, dopamine is no longer being used in the reward area of the brain. It's also part of our moods. So we're having lower levels of mood enhancing dopamine, and we're not getting the GABA. So, and GABA is a systemic soother. It also helps to relieve pain, and and this is some medications that they're putting out there, like Lyrica, um, affects the GABA in the body. So, with that said, you have three neurotransmitters already right there. Not enough GABA, not enough dopamine, and too much glutamate, which creates excitability. Okay, and dopamine is also can be indicated with depression. So when you have these variations in the chemicals, again, it's not because the body is dysfunctional, it's actually working to keep us safe. But when this is happening on a regular basis, we tend to get further and further and further into the mental angst that can occur when we aren't aware that this is actually a natural reaction, and that this, again, that there's nothing wrong, and that we have the ability to potentially talk ourselves up, and using oils to keep us uplifted. When we don't realize that we have that ability, it becomes more stressful, and so now our mental and emotional distress compounds the environmental distress. Okay, so all I'm trying to say here is the chemistry in the body just simply changes in reaction to the environment that's imposing itself on you. And therefore, you end up finding yourself having more pain, kind of feeling worried about things and so forth. So the inclusion of celery seed, number one, does help to ease some of that distress. It does help in the chelation, as far as if you are chelating and metals out of the body. And if you combine it with myrrh, a beautiful analgesic, really also helps to soothe and begin to restore some sense of wellness, well-being. Okay, so that is how I have primarily used celery seed. Um, I have occasionally used it for nursing mothers, although it wasn't because it was an estrogen problem, because it doesn't enhance. It's not like fennel. Fennel is actually stimulates or has an estrogenic effect. It's not that. It helps to calm the body, because part of when we're in survival, again, we're not producing things as we should be for thriving. And when we're trying to help our child to thrive, but we're stressed, then it's harder to produce the milk. So helping to relieve that, we don't need to be adding more estrogen to the body. I mean, really what it is about helping to relieve and stabilize the autonomic nervous system and the hormonal system, so that the body can actually begin to shift more into the thriving mode. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that, and I will get back onto the writing that I'm doing today. And let me know if you have any questions, and just know that I really appreciate being on this journey with you. And stay tuned for day 21.